Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
When it comes to voting rights,
is equally as consequential.
When it comes to voting rights, just so I'm clear, though, you would entertain the notion of doing away with the filibuster on that one issue? Is that correct?
And maybe more.
And maybe other issues.
Oh! Wait, what? What? You mean I have to pay attention now? Because Joe Biden just made news. Holy mother of God. Progress, everybody. Progress. Oh. That is that's amazing. So I have to tell you, I watched that town hall last night in Baltimore, which really should have been in Arizona and or West Virginia or both at the same time. That would have been real newsworthy. But okay, so we watched that last night. Did you? Did everybody watch? And I thought, I'm going to watch a 77-year-old man. Might as well just hang out with Howard, and who wants to do that? No, I have to on a Friday. I have to. I promised my time on a Friday and a Saturday, but not on a Thursday. Oh, no. Oh, hell no. But, yeah, so I watched it, and then I rewatched it. They reran it last night on the CNN, and I watched it again until like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm freaking tired, but it was really amazeballs. Why? Why was it amazeballs? Well, first of all, the only thing that the right wing could mock him on is the position of his hands. I don't know if you saw that or not. I don't know if anybody caught that, but this became a meme. This little portion here.
You had told us at a town hall, I think it was in July, that this was just near-term inflation. The Wall Street Journal recently.
Okay, so this portion here, right here, became a meme on the right wing social media sites, the Gab, the Getter, the Reddits, the Twitters, and the Facebooks. And people did, you got to give them a little credit. They were clever. People did different memes. Somebody put 2 ice cream cones in his hand. Adorable. But remember, this is how they're mocking him. This is the worst that they could do to him. So some people put ice cream cones in his hand. Other people put steering wheel. A steering wheel was cute. It was adorbs. But this was how they attacked Joe Biden last night. This is what they came away with. This is pretty much all they had. They had the position of his hands, and they had the brain fart. Anybody catch the brain fart? Must have been smoking the indica. The indica will do this. It was sort of
40% of all products coming into the United States of America on the West Coast go through Los Angeles and what am I doing here?
Is it Long Beach?
Long Beach, thank you.
Yeah, because that never happens to any of us, ever. It happened to me the other day. I was talking to you, right? I was talking to you about something I was watching on the TV, and Brett and I got into a side convo. Remember that?
The dope sick lull.
Yes, and I forgot. I got off of my, my little zone there. I got out of my zone, and then bumping back, I went dope sick because I had a brain fart. I mean, like that happens to no one. So this is why I think it was good last night. These were the only 2 issues. These were the only 2 mocks that the right wing could come up with to trash him. Now, I got to tell you, when Trump was in a similar position, first of all, the fact checks were 20 pages long. The fact check on Biden was like a page. It was a page, and it was more nuanced than you would ever care to get. So the fact check was nice and short and sweet and to the point, and there was really not any big, gaffes here. There was just those 2. And the other thing was he made freaking news, and he was candid. He literally was candid and revealing and told us what we wanted to know the whole time these negotiations for the Build Back Better plan have been underway. He told us what Kirsten Sinema was telling him. He told us what her problems are. He told us what Joe Manchin's issues were and what his problems were. He told us that he still thinks he's going to get this done. He told us this was not the hardest deal he's ever put together. And that's what we're counting on. We're counting on the fact that Biden, and you know, he made fun of himself. He was very self-deprecating, and I really liked it. They asked him, Anderson Cooper asked him whether or not this was the hardest deal he had ever, gotten involved in. And he said, no, not at all.
Are you close to a deal?
I think so. You know, look, I was a senator for 370 years. And I was relatively good at putting together deals.
Is this the toughest deal you've worked on?
No. I think banning assault weapons is the toughest deal I worked on, and succeeded.
You're flying to Europe, I think, in 8 days.
Yes.
Do you think you'll have a deal by the time you get on Air Force One in 8 days?
You know, it's like my asking you, are you sure your next show is going to be a success?
Yes.
Well, you're more confident than I am. Look, it's all about compromise. You know, compromise become a dirty word, but it's bipartisanship and compromise still has to be possible. When I ran for the president, I said I'm running for 3 reasons. 1, to restore the soul and decency in the country. 2, to build the middle class and the working class so we built from the middle out. And 3, to actually unite the country. And everybody's been saying, well, that's crazy. You can't do it. If we can't eventually unite this country, we're in deep trouble.
Bottom line, do you think you will get a deal?
I do think I'll get a deal.
So he was very revealing last night. He told you a lot of things. He told you about the filibuster, which is really what woke me up. That's really what made me sit up and pay attention and say, oh, he's really going to tell, not just the truth, but he's going to give details. He's going to give the deets on how he's going to move forward in the future. Now, I want to play you the filibuster portion in context, because what I played was a 17-second clip just to wake you up and make you say, wait, I didn't hear that last night. Yeah, well, that's why I watched it twice, honestly. But here it is in context.
It used to be you had to stand on the floor and exhaust everything you had, and when you gave up the floor and someone else sought the floor, they had to talk until they finished. You're only allowed to do it a second time. After that, it's over. You vote. Somebody moved for the vote. I propose we bring that back now, immediately. But I also think we're going to have to move to the point where we fundamentally alter the filibuster.
Yeah, thanks.
The idea that, for example, my Republican friends say that we're going to default on the national debt because they're going to filibuster that, and we need 10 Republicans to support us, is the most bizarre thing ever heard. I think you're going to see, if it gets pulled again, I think you're going to see an awful lot of Democrats being ready to say, not me, I'm not doing that again. We're going to end the filibuster.
December 3rd.
But it still is difficult to end the filibuster beyond that. That's another issue.
But are you saying once you get this current agenda passed on spending and social programs, that you would be open to fundamentally altering the filibuster or doing away with it?
Well, that remains to be seen. Exactly what that means in terms of fundamentally altering it. Whether or not we just end the filibuster straight up.
Yeah.
There's certain things that are just sacred rights. One's a sacred obligation that we never going to renege on a debt. We're the only nation in the world. We have never, ever reneged on a single debt.
But when it comes to voting rights...
Voting rights is equally as consequential.
Wow. When it comes to voting rights, just so I'm clear, though, you would entertain the notion of doing away with the filibuster on that one issue? Is that correct?
And maybe more.
Oh! And maybe other issues.
Yeah, baby, yeah! See, that's what we want to hear. That is what we need to hear. That is what we need to know. And I tell you, he was very because listen, just amending the filibuster, it's like taking that stone that's in your shoe out of your shoe and moving it to the other shoe. Do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't really solve your discomfort or your displeasure. So, ending it over amending it is what I'm for, because I always believe it's better to end a problem than just to fool around with it to make it suck less. Why not just fix it so you don't have to deal with it anymore? I have a freaking feeling that voting rights have life. and we're not going to default.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
There's so much misinformation. And you know what I find fascinating? I turn on Fox to find out how popular I am. But
how are you doing there?
I'm doing very well. I think I'm at 3% favorable. But all kidding aside, one of the things I find, do you realize they mandate vaccinations?
At Fox headquarters.
Yeah. I find that mildly fascinating.
You find that mildly fascinating?
Mildly fascinating.
It was really good last night, I'm telling you. And the right wing tried so hard to denigrate him. They tried so hard to insult him and to make him into some doddering doofus and some ill-equipped old man. And it just, I'm telling you, they had nothing, because he was funny. He was, willing to tell you what's going on behind closed doors. He shared with you his frustration and his disappointment, and but he didn't piss off Kirsten Sinema. He's called her smart as a devil. He didn't piss off Joe Manchin. He just said, look, this is where we part ways. This is where, but we'll do it another way. We'll figure out another way. And Kirsten Sinema, it seems, has bought into another way. Okay, turns out after all of this vacuum that she created by refusing to tell her constituents, to tell us, the American people, look, Biden had a really good line last night. He said, when you have only 50 senators and you've got a filibuster scenario where you need 60 to pass anything, then every one of the 50 are president of the United States, meaning they have veto power. They have veto power over the entire agenda. So he was willing to tell you that, and he was willing to say that as the president of the United States. You think Donald Trump would ever acknowledge the landscape before him and put himself on the same level as 50 other senators? Oh, hell no. So that was really fascinating. But he said that Kirsten Sinema, apparently she look, this was not a smart move on her part to stay silent in this way. Because what happened was she created a big information vacuum with her constituents in Arizona, with us, the American people, who are wondering what the hell does she want and what can we give her so we can move forward, because we want this Build Back Better investment. We want it, and it's not just Democrats that want it. Independents want it. A good chunk of Republicans want it. They know that this is something that will really create jobs. They know that this is something that will really move us into the future, and they know it's something they need. People need pre-K. People need childcare. People need elder care. People need help taking care of their families. People need help, physical help, the ability to be able to keep your mom in her house with an aide to help her shower, to help her toilet, to help her cook a meal. That is paramount to the success of people like me and everyone who is like me that listens. We are all the sandwich generation, all of us. We have kids that we worry about with the COVID economy. We have kids that we worry about with student loan debt. We have kids that we worry about who might have a decent career going but don't have a house, a home of their own because, they can't get out from under the student debt. And then on the other end of it, we have aging parents, elderly parents who need time and attention, who need help just going to the bathroom. I mean, these are the cold, hard facts of our lives. And that is what Build Back Better actually seeks to address. And then there's the separate infrastructure package that pays for the roads and the bridges and the tunnels and all the hard stuff, the stuff that we've been putting off. There's a new scandal about lead in the water in Michigan. And people are having to use bottled water because the pipes are full of lead. I mean, this is America, for God's sake. This is supposed to be the greatest country in the world. And we've been hobbled by Republicans, a desire to take our tax dollars and instead of creating a civilized society for us, which is why we pay taxes, You pay taxes to have a civilized society that sees to the general welfare of the people. Well, instead of doing that hard work, they've decided that our tax dollars ought to be redistributed and that we ought to be practicing socialism in reverse, and that we ought to take all the big tranches of money and redistribute it to the top, and then it'll trickle down to the rest of us. And that never worked, and it never will. And so this is a sea change. Now, Kyrsten Sinema obviously decided not to say anything about where she is on any of this, creating a huge vacuum so that people began to assign personality traits to her that maybe she does deserve and maybe she doesn't. But definitely she handled this really badly. And definitely she's been changed by the money. There's no doubt that she has likely been lobbied by the Chamber of Commerce and likely been lobbied by Big Pharma and likely been lobbied by fossil fuels, et cetera, to the point where she now says she isn't for what she voted for in 2017. Okay. Here's why you know the money got to her, okay? And this is demonstrably, provably true. In 2017, when Donald Trump did the tax cut for the wealthy, okay, and we know where that money went, and we know that it was, 87% of all the gains went to the top 1%. We know that. And he lowered the corporate tax rate and all those things. How did Kyrsten Sinema vote on that particular bill? Well, she voted no. She was a no. And now we're asking that she throw her weight behind reversing what she voted no in the first place on. And she won't do it. Now, all of a sudden, she says, I don't want to raise corporate taxes. I don't want to raise taxes on the wealthiest Americans. I don't want to. Obviously, that is, remember when John Kerry voted for the $787 billion and then voted against it because the bill had changed? Remember that? Well, this is the ultimate flip-flop, okay? And so we know something's gone on with regard to her waking up to, the gravy train that's available. And I think she just said to herself, my God, I can't believe my luck here. I can't believe that all these lobbyists are on Capitol Hill right now lobbying against progress for the American people, and I can make money off of this for my next reelect or for my next effort, whatever it is, right? So we know that there's something that she's responding to that isn't us. And I think that's fair. But what in the hell was she for? Turns out not much. Not much. But it also turns out that she is open to alternative revenue raisers. Let's put it that way. She's open to hearing other ideas that don't raise the marginal tax rate on corporate, that don't raise the marginal tax rate on the wealthy. And one of a good chunk of those ideas come from the very progressive Elizabeth Warren. And it seems Sinema might be open to those. And that would be good.
Connect.
Yeah.
To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. President Biden, in his town hall discussion tonight, seemed to indicate that there was no movement that he was aware of or prepared to talk about on tax revenues from Senator Sinema. Now we have this Politico reporting, which indicates there is some possibility of Senator Sinema being willing to agree to an amount of revenue through various devices that might not involve individual tax rates, might involve other things. But that seems, if true, to be a way to get there and to get there soon.
Yeah, I think Kyrsten Sinema has really hurt herself by not talking about what she's for.
Right.
I understand that she believes very strongly that negotiations should occur in private and that she will fully explain her vote when she makes her vote, and it will become apparent what she worked for and what she cares about. But in the interim, the vacuum is being filled by a lot of anger towards her. I've been on the phone all day, Lawrence, as you might imagine, with a bunch of different senators in my party. I am confident that the Politico reporting is correct.
Yay.
That she has, in fact, agreed to a number of revenue enhancers in various ways that will make this bill be paid for. I think, frankly, now the problem is some of the details as it relates to Joe Manchin, particularly around climate. Kyrsten Sinema is big on the climate part. She really thinks that's the most important part of this bill.
Really?
Joe Manchin is still struggling with some of the details. And when you only got 50, as the president said, everybody has power. And I know it's frustrating for everyone, but that's why elections really matter and why margins of majorities matter.
They really do. The idea that we're asking for everything that we need right now from this government, which is completely divided. And I know everybody, well, you have the House, you have the Senate, you have, yeah, but by razor-thin majorities. And if we continue down this ridiculous the tyranny of the minority can, cause everything to die on the vine. Because you need 60 votes to pay the debt of the United States. You need 60 votes to ensure that we have our constitutionally protected right to vote protected. When you do that, when that's the situation, when that's the lay of the land, everybody is president of the United States in the Senate. That's number one. And number two, nothing gets done. So, look, that is the plan of the by the Republicans, is not to govern. They've never been good at governing. It's not their wheelhouse. It's not their forte. The Republicans are good at obstruction, and the Republicans are good at redistribution of our wealth to their donor class. That's what they're good at, nothing more, okay? Maybe they're better salesmen than we are, but that's because they have to sell snake oil. So they're carnival barkers, and they're very good at being, carnival barkers. They're very good at being clowns, but they're terrible at governing, and that's why they have such, salesmanship built into qualifications, let's say, to be a senator. Anyway, so Kyrsten Sinema, what is open? Oh, it's my email. Hang on. Kyrsten Sinema apparently is open to Elizabeth Warren's idea. I will play you Elizabeth Warren's idea from a couple days ago.
You know Joe Manchin, you know Kyrsten Sinema. They have been the holdouts, really. I mean, I'm sure other people have other negotiations they would want to make. We just heard from Manu that Senator Sinema, who has been saying this for months, has concerns about the way to pay for this. She does not want to raise the corporate tax increase. She does not want to raise the corporate tax, which was decreased a few years ago, before she came to the Senate, I should add. Mm-hmm. And she does not want, she's reluctant to raise the top level tax increase. Now, I know that those are popular provisions to raise taxes on wealthy people and corporations, but if she's reluctant to do so, how do you get there? How do you get her vote?
So, look, I'd like to be able to raise those rates, and I'll fight to be able to raise those rates, but take a look at my real corporate profits tax. This is not about raising the marginal rate at the top. This is about Amazon making $10 billion in profits and turning around and telling the IRS, oh, sorry, we made nothing, and paying zero in taxes. So I've got a proposal. It's actually pretty straightforward that says for companies that make more than $100 million in profits.
Oh, my God.
When they report that publicly, they're going to have to pay at least 7% on their publicly reported profits. That's not raising the marginal rate, but you know how much money it raises? Over 10 years, that raises about $717 billion. So Senator Angus King and I have been fighting for this. This is a way to say our problem is partly about too low a rate at the top, and obviously some Democrats disagree. But I think all the Democrats agree by golly, everybody ought to be paying something. When you're making the kind of profits that Amazon and other companies are making, 55 companies make more than $1 billion in profits and pay nothing in taxes.
Oh my God.
That's not right. We can stop that, and we can fund a lot of this plan.
With all due respect, you don't need to tell me, you need to tell Kirsten Sinema. And also, if it were that simple, why hasn't it been done? Just because corporate interests are so powerful?
Yeah. I mean, come on. You're surprised?
No, I'm not. But have you talked to Kirsten Sinema about this? Because that's who you need to get nodding in agreement.
That's
not just
Look,
me.
I'm feeling good about this provision because it's a good provision. And I'm also feeling good about it because the lobbyists are totally freaking out about it, which tells me they're worried it's really about to happen. So Senator King and I have been talking to all of our colleagues. And so far, we haven't got much pushback on it. $717 billion, Jake.
There you go. So she's brilliant, obviously, and there's many ways to, hold people accountable. You know what's crazy, and how you know that Kirsten Sinema has accepted so many donations from people that have gotten crossways with us, the people, is that particular, not Elizabeth Warren's provision there, which is an amazingly smart one, but the raising of the corporate marginal tax rate to 25%, which is still less than it was when we lowered it under Donald Trump, that is so popular in America. It has like 88% support. It's like background checks on guns. It's one of those that everybody agrees needs to happen, except for Sinema, who has all the power of the veto with her vote. So she had to be pitched an alternative. She's a very alternative type. But she had to be pitched an alternative. And Elizabeth Warren and Angus King, that's who she's talking about, the independent from Maine, have come up with this, where if you make more than $100 million in profits, then you have to pay at least 7%. It's like an alternative minimum tax requirement for people making $100 million in profits. Not revenue. Not revenue. Profits. That's what your company gained after all the costs, all the salaries, everything was paid. What was the profit? And if it's over 100 mil, 7%.
Clear. This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
So, Dr. Blumberg, if the 12 states that have not taken up the Medicaid expansion decided to do so tomorrow, how much new federal money would the federal government be expected to find to finance these expansions?
It would cause no increase in need for revenue because it was already covered by the Affordable Care Act as passed in 2000.
So this has already been budgeted for?
Correct. There's a lot of money left on the table that has not been used by those states since 2014.
Okay, money left on the table. If Congress passed a bill to close the coverage gap and found new money to cover the cost, would Congress be paying twice to cover this same population?
Essentially, yes. That's the truth, since it was already funded. Or the same people, the same benefits.
All right, thank you.
So it costs nothing to make the 12 states that refuse to extend and expand Medicaid and make it a federal requirement, right? That everybody that qualifies for Medicaid gets Medicaid. It would cost nothing because it's already been budgeted for in the ACA, in Obamacare. I mean, these are like little factoids that most Americans aren't aware of because they don't watch C-SPAN 3, which is where hearings happen. They don't even know, how to watch C-SPAN, but that's fine. I get that when you watch C-SPAN, you're going to do it alone. You're going to get treated by the world like you would if you were snorting meth. No one wants to be around you. Nobody wants to watch you do that to yourself. But these hearings are actually occurring. And the testimony that you get from people whose arena, whose area it is to tell you what the study shows or what the financing is or where the money's already been appropriated and hasn't been spent for 10 years is very elucidating. It's very interesting. And, she talked about Medicare too. the hearing, the dental, the See, this is what scared me last night when Biden was asked about the Medicare expansion to include vision, dental, and hearing aids. Biden said it's a reach. That would be a reach. And that scares me because that is what Medicare needs to add to its coverage. Now, you know who lobbies against that? Private insurance carriers that want you in their little HMO, Medicare Advantage plans, private health insurance companies. They want to dangle the silver sneakers plan. They want to dangle, oh, you could get coverage for your hearing aids if you join our little tiny a group of doctors and you never go out of network and, whatever. So that's what Medicare Advantage basically is. It requires underwriting, number one. Number two, it changes every year. The Advantage plans do. And number three, in certain areas, you are only allowed to be inside of a health maintenance organization, a small group of doctors, and you can't go outside that group. You're in an HMO. Where Medicare, you show your card, and almost every doctor is going to take that insurance, the Medicare insurance. And just about every hospital in the United States would also take Medicare. So that's the little, lobby shop, part of why they don't want to see hearing, vision, and dental covered in Medicare, because they still want to be able to sell those ridiculous Medicare Advantage plans, right?
Last year, 9.5 million Medicare beneficiaries said that they could not access dental, vision, or hearing services that they needed. Can you just give us a little bit of a description about who those people were?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. So we're talking about, it's really important to see this, 3 times as many folks are having trouble who have incomes below $10,000 than the people who have higher income. These are large part, we're talking about the most vulnerable Medicare recipients. Also, it's many people of color. Compared to white Medicare beneficiaries, twice as many black beneficiaries can't see a dentist. And 1/3 as many Hispanics, twice as many black adults have lost all their teeth as compared to the national average. Ooh. And 3 times as many Mexican American and older adults have untreated tooth decay. So this is very much an issue for some of our most poor, vulnerable, and beneficiaries of color.
And they are the ones who would benefit most if Medicare were expanded to cover vision, dental, and hearing.
Without a question. Without a question.
That's another reason why. That's another reason why Joe Manchin, his state, what is it, 98% white? Some crazy number like that. Yeah, they're not interested. Not interested. Can't make the sale. So anyway, I don't know what's going to survive in the Build Back Better plan. I could tell you that the community college idea is probably going away, but there are other supplemental ideas that would get kids to be able to go to community college, like increasing the value of a Pell Grant. But remember, universal community college doesn't require means testing. Universal community college behaves just like public school behaves. Universal access to community college doesn't require any paperwork. It doesn't require you apply to any program in order to get a check the way Pell Grants do. And that's the difference. And Manchin is not interested, again, not interested in seeing us create an environment where school starts at 3 years old and doesn't end at 12th grade, but goes on to 14th grade. Not interested. So I don't know what's going to make it out of there, but I will tell you that they seem to feel optimistic that they're going to get a deal. Now, I can tell you some of the things I think are going to happen. And then I'm going to be done speculating about it, because I just want to wait and see what happens next week. Because next week they'll probably announce a framework and tell us definitively what's in, what's out. But I could tell you right now that I believe the family leave portion, which was going to be 12 weeks for you to be home with a newborn or for you to get sick and be able to nurse yourself back to health, 12 weeks of 2/3 of your pay covered under a family leave package, that's probably going to go down to 4 weeks, which is better than nothing. Like I said, half-assed is better than no-assed. but this is the way incrementalism works. It really sucks if you're a progressive. So I think we might see 4 weeks paid family leave, no community college, except an increase in the amount of Pell Grants that are available to people who want to go to community college, which is not the same, but it could have a similar effect, let's just say. I'm going to say that the only thing that makes it in the Medicare expansion is going to be dental. I don't think it's going to include eyeglasses, and I don't think it's going to include hearing aids, although I will tell you, and the reason why I think that is because last night Joe Biden was asked about that. He said it was a reach, but then he also shifted into the news that came across this week that said that hearing aids would now be cheaper and sold over the counter, lowering their cost. Because that was something he mentioned last night too, I have a feeling that that's the route we're going to go, where the cost of hearing aids comes down because they're now not just available through an audiologist's office. You don't need a prescription for them anymore. You can actually go to the pharmacy. You can get a hearing test or whatever, and then you can get the hearing aid, and maybe remotely they tweak it for you so that it's not too tinny, it's not too bassy. They ask you, is this better or is this better? At home, I don't know, but that's kind of the direction I think we're going. The child tax credit, which was supposed to be extended. This is the $300 payment for children over the age of 7 to 16, 17. And the $350, I believe, for children under the age of 7, birth to 6. That was supposed to get extended till 2025. I now think we'll get 1 year out of it. I think we'll get a 1 year's extension. And the reason why that's good is because the extension will happen during an election. The extension will happen. It will become an issue for us when we vote in 2022. And so it's bad because it should have just happened. People should have been able to have the security, the reliability of knowing that the checks were going to come till 2025 and budget their household that way. But likely it's going to be extended for 1 year. 1 year. The home health care piece, where your elderly parent can get somebody to come to their house who's paid a decent wage, because the home health care piece had two pieces. It had an increase in the wages for home health care providers, which would have created 1 million good paying jobs, but it also had the piece where you could afford to hire somebody. You could help pay, it would help pay for that. So that had $400 billion in it. It's now going to be $150 billion for that. You know what I'm saying? So incrementally, this is going to be incrementalism. But these are things that people will like.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Now Mr. Trump says he is launching a new social media service. Not the blog, not Get Her. Now it's some other thing. But from the moment he made the announcement last night, it's kind of felt familiar. For one thing, this supposedly new social media platform appears to be him just taking somebody else's off-the-shelf software and calling it a new thing. It's literally run on free open source software that anyone can use to build a thing that kind of looks like Twitter but isn't Twitter. Also, when Trump made his big announcement last night, his team apparently forgot to do anything to protect or prepare the test version of this thing that was just sitting online. The Washington Post, I think, quite ably described what happened next. Quote, within hours, pranksters found what appeared to be an unreleased test version and posted a picture of a defecating pig to the Donald J. Trump account. The site's early hours revealed lax security, rehashed features, and a flurry of bizarre design decisions. An open sign-up page allowed anyone to use the site shortly after it was revealed, sparking the creation of the Donald J. Trump account and the defecating pig posting. A Washington Post reporter was able to register and post under the account name Mike Pence without any stops in place. Although thankfully, the Mike Pence account left the pigs alone. Anyway, so this is going well.
Yeah, it's going really, really well. Listen, I just want to tell you, this is the new Trump fraud. This is the new Trump scam. This is the new Trump, snake oil. This is the new thing, okay? They found, open source software. It's called Mastodon, okay? And it looks exactly like Twitter's software. You're allowed to use it. It's generic. It's open source. It's free. But there are some legal qualifications, and it seems like the Trump, people who merged their company with a like an investment, guy who's been trying since 2012 to hit something, to get something going, to make some. This guy literally has a company that's based in Wuhan, China. Swear to God. He's the CEO of a company based in Wuhan, which makes it only the second most toxic thing that ever came out of Wuhan, China. This, new software. But listen, it isn't even going to happen. I mean, this thing is such a scam. It's so unbelievable. So TMTG, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Gropers, it's Trump Media and Technology Group, has merged with another investment company, Special Purpose Acquisition Company. Okay, these are all big title. You know what a Special Purpose Acquisition Company is? It's called an SPAC or a SPAC. It's a blank check company, meaning it has absolutely no purpose. It has no stated purpose. It has no, identifying purpose. It doesn't exist for any reason. And the reason why you would do something like this is so that you could be publicly traded without going through all the hurdles that legitimate publicly traded companies have to go through to get on the NASDAQ, to get on the stock exchange, to get on the, SPACs just pop into existence. Okay. They just, all of a sudden they're in existence and they're on a fast track and they can be a stock listing and they dodge every qualifying step that every other legitimate company that goes through an IPO, that goes through the legitimate listing process has to go through. So that's what a blank check company is. So this man who's based in Wuhan, China, is literally merging his blank check company with Trump's media company to be able to solicit sales of its shares to MAGA. This is the We Build the Wall on steroids fraud. Okay, that is what this is. In 2 hours after the launch of this social media site, which I think Donald Trump is calling Truth Social, which is like, the man, it's like fair and balanced. Fox News is neither fair nor balanced, and Donald Trump never tells the truth, and he's antisocial. He only hangs out at his own properties with his own hand-picked minions. It's just so unbelievable. But it's called Truth Social, and it's a fraud. It's an absolute fraud. They are literally telling people to buy shares in this company, which is nothing but an open source media company, meaning it doesn't have any code that is, valuable. It's generic open source code that they're using, and it looks just like Twitter. And there's no security associated with this website. Hence, the Washington Post reporter was able to log on as Mike Pence. Okay. Hence, the other person that I saw it too. He was able to create an account, Donald J. Trump account, and he was able to post a photo of a pig defecating on its own scrotum. That's what the actual photo was, which is the most evocative symbol of Trumpism that you could ever devise. His base, they're like the testicles of MAGA, meaning this is where MAGA gets its potency, from the lunatic fringe. But Trump himself poops all over you. So that was the most symbolic thing you could have posted on there. And then 2 hours later, the whole site went down. The whole thing went down. Now, I just want you to know that I looked through the terms of use. They're listed on that website. And one of the things with this freedom of speechy sort of appeal that he's making to the base to invest in his nothing unique website, nothing extraordinarily different, nothing, that you couldn't recreate yourself website. And he's asking people to buy shares in this, even though it was hacked almost immediately and it failed in 2 hours. There's no security, and there's no security at all, which tells me you don't want to be giving your data over to this Wuhan-based company or to this Trumpy thing. Okay, but it also tells me another thing. It tells me he isn't going to pay for security at all, okay? And everybody's data is going to be able to be taken. And it also tells me it's a scam. It's an absolute scam. Now, shortly after they announced this thing, the value of the shares went up 357%. And they never even have to launch to get the money. You understand? They never even have to launch to get the money. This is right up there with Trump Steaks and Trump University and, the Trump brand itself. Whatever Trump, it was Trump Water, Trump Steaks, Trump ties, Trump, wine, Trump, airlines, Trump, none of these companies exist. And yet he found a way to make money off of each and every one of them. And that's kind of what's going on. I mean, the pandemic is only going to be the second worst thing that ever came out of Wuhan. It's just, well, at least they're well positioned to investigate the lab leak theory. They're well positioned. They're right there on the ground in Wuhan. No, I'm telling you right now that this is a scheme. This is absolutely a scheme. And not only did the thing fail almost immediately, but now he's being challenged legally by Mastodon, which is the open source software that he used. Mastodon's licensing rules require developers to share any modifications that link to the original source code. The founder, Eugene Roshko, he said he's contacted the company's legal counsel. So, honestly.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
A wild moment on the House floor yesterday following the vote to hold Steve Bannon in contempt of Congress. Seen here on camera, you will see Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene approach her colleagues, Liz Cheney and Jamie Raskin. Greene reportedly shouting at them, calling Cheney a joke and asking Raskin, why don't you care about the American people? So what all happened there? Let's talk with Jamie Raskin, Congressman from Maryland. He is a member of the January 6th Select Committee. Sir, thank you for being with us this morning. What did happen?
Well, thank you for having me. I went up to congratulate Liz on really a splendid set of remarks that she made about Steve Bannon's contempt. He'd blown off our subpoena, and she made it clear that that's intolerable in a system of the rule of law. So anyway, I thought she had done a great job. I went over to congratulate her, and then Marjorie Taylor Greene, whom I don't know, I've never been properly introduced to, started yelling at me, saying, when are you going to do hearings about all the violence at Black Lives Matter protests? And I tried to engage her, as I do with all my colleagues. I said, we really should have some hearings about Kyle Rittenhouse and the two people that he killed at a Black Lives Matter protest and all the other right-wing saboteurs who went out to try to create violence and to commit violence against Black Lives Matter. So she turned her attention to Liz Cheney. I did hear her call her a joke and start screaming at her. I thought that that Liz, who's about the best mannered and best poised person in the House of Representatives, might just walk away. But I was impressed that she gave as good as she got. And I mean, I'll leave it to Liz to talk about whatever it is she said. But it seemed to me like the theme of Marjorie Taylor Greene's comments was that Liz Cheney had betrayed Donald Trump and the Republican Party. And the theme of Liz's comments were that Marjorie Taylor Greene was, shall we say, a bit eccentric.
But Liz Cheney called her a joke, and she referenced the Jewish space laser conspiracy theory about wildfires. Is that correct? And Marjorie Taylor Greene responded to that.
It seemed like there was some history to the conversation that they were having, and it may have had to do with some of Marjorie Taylor Greene's postings online.
Jewish space lasers is what it was. So Marge is losing her freaking mind, and she's yelling at everybody on the House floor. And she went up to Jamie Raskin, right? Jamie Raskin, who's a constitutional scholar, and started screaming at him about, why are you holding Bannon in contempt? Why don't you go look at the violence that happened over the summer with Black Lives Matter protests? And Jamie Raskin, being as educated as we are about who actually infiltrated those Black Lives Matter protests and started fires. And we know this now because these people have been convicted of the same, infiltrating Black Lives Matter protests in Minneapolis, setting police precincts on fire, breaking the windows of the auto zone and looting it, and writing in spray paint free stuff so that these white supremacists could then get people to riot, could then get people to loot, could then blame BLM protesters for what they did. Violence. What they did. Fires. What they did. Steal. Loot. There was looting in New York, and that was mafia. That was organized crime that did that. But the violence that you saw at Black Lives Matter protests, for the most part, were interlopers. Kyle Rittenhouse, as you know, killed 2 people, or I blew somebody's arm off and then killed a guy, right? And then they point and they go, it's Antifa. It's not Antifa. There's Antifa is like some group in Portland or some such thing. It's, whatever. But yeah, so she started screaming at Jamie Raskin, and Jamie Raskin came back with, yeah, we really should have hearings on Kyle Rittenhouse, and we really should have hearings on Umbrella Man, and we should really have hearings on the guys that actually, set the police precinct on fire. We should. And we should find out the roots of who organized them, or who told them, or where they were congealing. Like, what social media app were they using? Were they on Facebook talking to each other and planning to do these false flags and blaming, BLM for what they did, for the violence they did, for the arson they did, for the looting they did, for the spray painting they did? And so she walked away and went up to Liz Cheney and started screaming at Liz Cheney. And Liz Cheney said, yeah, Jewish space lasers. Got it. Yeah, sure. That's what starts forest fires. Your bat crap is what happened. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene walked out, and a reporter went up to her and said, well, why do you think Liz Cheney is doing what she's doing? Why do you think that is?
What do you think Cheney's motivation is for saying those things about President Trump?
Oh, she's just jealous and she hates Trump.
Do you think she's going to run against him?
Who cares? Nobody cares about Liz Cheney. I mean, I think that's the biggest story. Nobody cares about Liz Cheney or their stupid committee.
She's like a second grader. She really is. This is what happens when there's no barrier to entry. And there is no barrier to entry to be a congressman person. There's no barrier to entry to being a senator. And there's no barrier to entry to being a president of the United States. And this is the quality that you will sink to, okay, when there's no barrier to entry. We've got so many of these nutbags. We got Gosar, and we got Biggs, and we got Brooks, Mo Brooks, and we got her, and we got Boebert. We got some real lunatic, fringy people. It used to be that we had a fringy person. We had a fringy person or two fringy people. Democrats always had a fringy person. Like we had James Trafficant. He was just so he was just so nuts. Okay, he would start and end all his floor speeches with "Beam me up, Scotty." He was a lunatic. He was nuts, and he was corrupt. He was dirty. He finally got popped. So now we have these ethics investigations. I don't know if you saw this. It's in the homework. It's just an aside. But 3 Republicans just got popped for insider trading and for ethics violations, and 1 Democrat from New Jersey. 1 Democrat from New Jersey. But I mean, and this is just madness. This is mass madness because there's no barrier to entry. All right, let's see what's going on out there. Kurt in Ohio.
Oh, hi, Randy. You
Hey.
caught me feeding my dogs.
Oh,
so,
hey, dog.
Yeah, Truman, Molly, and Katie.
Hey.
Yeah. So hey, that town hall meeting last night, that was the best one I've ever seen him do.
It was good.
And the fact that I loved, first of all, his candidness. I loved how he said that if he doesn't get that community college, his wife said he's sleeping down the hall.
Yeah, he's going to be sleeping alone, he said. Mm-hmm.
And I also loved how he said, I even watch Fox News just to see how popular I am, and I think I'm at 3% there.
Yeah, and he said, look, I've been a senator for 370 years, I mean, he literally was self-deprecating. He was insightful. He was honest. He was candid. He even said, hey, listen, if I talk about getting rid of the filibuster now, I'll lose 3 votes on the infrastructure package. Can't do it. But
right, and then also, if you remember, he also paid tribute to his dear friend Colin Powell by talking about how they dragged their Corvette on the Secret Service track.
Yeah, and that's why people put a steering wheel in his hand when he clenched his fists. I mean, really.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
One of the things I was committed to do when I ran was reestablish the reputation and integrity of the Justice Department. It has become it was corrupted under the last administration.
Wow.
I should have chosen my words more wisely. I did not, have not, and will not pick up the phone and call the Attorney General and tell him what he should or should not do in terms of who he should prosecute. But I answered the question honestly, and I think that anyone who does not respond to that kind of question from the a legitimate committee in the House of Representatives of the United States Senate should be held accountable. So that's as much as I can say without coming and looking like I'm telling I have yet to talk to the Attorney General about anything.
The Attorney General put out a statement saying that they would make the decision on their own.
And they will.
Yeah.
I guarantee that.
So he was talking about the Bannon subpoena and whether or not Merrick Garland will move forward with the prosecution now that it's been voted out of the full House. And I keep on telling whoever I can get to in any fashion that I can reach them by that the House has the authority to enforce its own subpoena. You don't need to go to another branch of government to enforce your subpoena. Today, I put it in the homework. This is an older article. It's from the Bulwark. And I actually tweeted it out last night and tweeted it to the committee, to the January 6th Select Committee. And it's a story of inherent contempt. It's a story that isn't as old as the 1935 cases that we hear. It's not as old as, the 1821 Supreme Court decision about inherent contempt. And back in the day, in the 1821 Supreme Court case, the Supreme Court recognized that, in this case it was the Senate, or actually it was Congress. They said that Congress had the authority, they had the inherent authority to arrest and detain recalcitrant witnesses. There was a scandal that we all were forced to learn about that none of us remember to this minute, I don't think. The 1927 Teapot Dome scandal. Okay, there was an investigation, and the Supreme Court approved the Senate's power to have the deputy of the Sergeant at Arms arrest the former Attorney General's brother in Cincinnati. You don't have to stay on the premises. I don't know where people get these weird factoids that they just belch out on my air. It's just very upsetting. But yes, the Supreme Court said that there is inherent authority to send the sergeant at arms anywhere the sergeant at arms needs to go to arrest somebody who is defying a subpoena that was issued by Congress. Now I found this one. Okay, I found this one. This one's a really good one because this one's only 1973. This happened during Watergate. Senator Sam Ervin, who was a Democrat from North Carolina, he was chair of the Committee on Presidential Campaign Activities, right? And that was the select committee that was formed to investigate Richard Nixon's slush funds and, all the dirty, the burglars. And how did the burglars get paid to break into the Democratic National Committee headquarters in order to steal and thieve, inside information? Okay, so this select committee, just like we have the select committee now on January 6th, right, to look into who organized it, who paid for it, who, was a conduit for, getting information out about where and when and what the people should bring and why were they dressed in tactical gear that day and how did they all know to have walkie-talkies and, who was coordinating this? So there was a select committee back then to look at Watergate activities. And Senator Sam Ervin from North Carolina was the chair of that committee. And he wanted to interview Alexander Butterfield. Now, you may remember that name. Alexander Butterfield was the deputy assistant to President Richard Nixon. And they subpoenaed him to come and testify about the existence of a taping system in the White House. Why? Why did they even know about that? Why did they want that? Well, they wanted that because, John Dean, White House counsel, the Don McGahn of his day, except with integrity, John Dean went and testified to the Senate. But he did it behind closed doors, and he put a few sentences into his opening statement that piqued the curiosity of the Select Committee. When he read his opening statement, he said that he recalled being in the Oval Office on the evening of April 15th, 1973, in the Executive Office Building Suite. I'm sorry, not in the Oval Office, in the Executive Office Building Suite, which is across the street. And he said that at the time, Nixon got up from his chair and walked to a distant corner in the office to whisper about promising clemency to E. Howard Hunt, who was the handler of the burglars, if E. Howard Hunt kept silent about what he knew. That piqued the interest of the Select Committee. They said, what do you mean he walked into a corner and he whispered into a corner? And Dean said that he believed that a taping system existed. And that if the taping system existed and it hadn't been tampered with, then it would show that he was telling the truth about Nixon's involvement in the cover-up of the break-in of the Watergate Hotel, where the Democratic National Committee headquarters were. And so they wanted to talk to Alexander Butterfield, because if anybody would know whether or not there was a taping system, Alexander Butterfield, the assistant deputy to President Richard Nixon, would know that. And so they subpoenaed him, and he refused to testify. He actually said he was too busy, and he didn't have time, and he wasn't going to do it. And so Senator Sam Ervin told him that he would have the sergeant at arms arrest him and jail him. That's only 1973. And he ended up testifying. And as you know, the rest is history. Alexander Butterfield was questioned under oath and revealed that there was indeed a taping system in the White House and that Richard Nixon recorded every conversation he ever had, whether it was on the phone or in his office or, at the Executive Office Building, any meeting, anything at all. When you were talking to Nixon, you were talking to the tape. So Butterfield tried to defy a subpoena that was issued by the chairman of a committee in the Senate, and they were willing to enforce their own subpoena. So I still don't understand why we're going through Merrick Garland? Why are we leaving one branch of government to go to another branch of government to find out what the other branch of government will do about enforcing the legislative branch's subpoenas? It just doesn't make any sense. But Sam Ervin literally dispatched Jim Hamilton, who was a lawyer on his staff, to serve the subpoena on Alexander Butterfield. And when Butterfield said he was too busy to attend the hearing, the lawyer for Senator Ervin returned, and Senator Ervin told his lawyer, Jim, you tell Mr. Butterfield that if he's not here this afternoon, I will send the sergeant at arms to fetch him and bring him to the hearing. Why don't we do that?
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Okay, and now the most ridiculous clip of the day.
This is a global coup d'etat by the most evil cabal of people on the planet in the history of mankind. And if it is not stopped in the very near future, they will win. That's what's at stake, control of the world. They're putting eggs in people's bodies. If you didn't see yesterday's True News, you need to watch it. It's an egg that hatches into a synthetic parasite and grows inside your body. This is like a sci-fi nightmare, and it's happening in front of us.
You know, he's really misrepresenting this. I enjoy my egg. I'm looking forward to the company. He's crazy. It's a great thing.
Okay, so this is a hack host of a thing called True News, like Truth Social. You know, everything is true. Everything is true because they brand it true, or they brand it fair, or they brand it balanced. So therefore, it is. But that's Rick Wiles, who is just a scream to watch. I mean, if you're not watching some of this really lunatic, fringy, right-wing stuff, you're missing out. Like, I mean, it is so entertaining. It is so bizarre. It is so hysterical. It is just, and they are so serious about this global cabal that's putting eggs in people that are growing into synthetic virus, and it's a plan to take over the whole world by someone.
I told you I like watching The Five because it's almost like performance art. It's like surreal to me.
Yep.
But I'm missing out. I need to get the good stuff. That's the hard stuff.
Oh, that's
baby.
the hard stuff. Yeah. Oh no, that's
stuff.
China White straight to the vein. That's fentanyl right there. That's serious. You better have Narcan, you know, in your arsenal when you tune that in, because it will poison you to death. I mean, it's just so, because they're so serious. They're so serious about their theories, about their lies. They're so serious about their conspiracies, and it's so unbelievable. So 716, let's just say, dead Americans, but it's it's just really anyway. So that was the most fun clip of the day. It's the most outrageous. So these people are just bat crap. Xavier in LA.
Hey, Randy, how are you doing?
Good.
It's Xavier, Xavier, Xavier in Los Angeles.
How do I say it?
Xavier.
How do I say it?
X. Just say X. Damn. All right. So
there was a miscommunication there. Randy said Xavier.
I said Xavier,
and he's saying it's
am I still
Xavier.
on?
And then he's wait.
Well,
what?
I just a little correction. Calm down, Randy.
I'm calm. I said your name right though.
No, you didn't. I had to correct you. So now, what about how's those plants going?
My babies?
Yeah.
My babies are beautiful. They're sticky now. They smell up the whole neighborhood. They're
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What? How tall are they?
So they're not like super tall. I would say, let's see. So if this is the pot down here, I'd say they're like this tall.
Yeah, I had to beat a felony, about 15 years ago.
They're not.
Because commercial growing.
Yeah, no, these are just in 5-gallon pots is what they're in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So now, what do you think about hydroponics?
I've never tried it. I just did this one.
You get-
This is my first grow. I've never done it before. It's very hard, I will say. This is the most. This plant is the most finicky. It's like the Paris Hilton of plants. Okay, it needs so much attention. Maybe it's the Trump of plants.
They don't no. They don't need no attention.
Oh yeah,
you know
they
that
do.
weeds are weeds for a reason. They're called weeds for a reason.
They're not weeds. I don't know why we call them weed. It ain't weed. It needs to be separated from the boys. You got to wait and sex them and then separate them. And then you have to love on them, and they need a certain amount of this. And then after they finish doing the veg, then they need a certain amount of that and none of this anymore. And then they need sun and more sun and more sun. And you can't let it rain on them. This is why people grow them indoors, where they can control all of the...
Tell me about it.
Well,
15 years ago, I had to fight a felony.
You what?
I had to fight a felony, and I got it removed. You know, but Randy, I just want to let you know, hey, you know, I love listening to you. Oh, and I have to give a shout out to all my peeps on Facebook. That
okay, this man. See, I'm growing. I don't ingest. Maybe I do. I think lately I have. But you know, for what, 30 years, I never did. I never, ever, ever. But anyway, I just thought I would do it because it was fun. And I thought it was, you know, I love gardening. And so I thought maybe I'll do this. I'll grow those. These are not the easiest things that you ever did grow. I mean, they need nutrients, and then don't give them too much nutrient. They get nutrient lock. And then the leaves start to, and then if you don't have enough magnesium and you don't have enough, you know, calcium, and then, oh my God, finicky. But like I said, these plants need so much attention. They are soul sucking. But mine are stunning. They are absolutely beautiful. Dawn in Minnesota.
Oh, hey, Randy, it's Dawn. Hey, boring call after the last one. I just wanted to say that, you know, that we appreciate you. We all love you in the chat. And what are you going to do when the plants grow? And then what are you going to do with it?
Oh, so then what you do with them is you cut them and you hang them upside down. Yeah, and you dry them. And then you give them to friends as a lovely Christmas present.
Oh, that's perfect.
Right.
Well, we all love you on the chat. And you've got the best moderators.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Okay. I love you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend. So, yeah. So, you know, I mean, I am growing the marijuana plants. It is really, I'm very proud of them because they're not the easiest thing I've ever grown, ever. And I grow lots of stuff. I grow, you know, but I live in a tropical environment. Oh, and that's another thing. You can't let them get wet because once the buds are budding, then they will mold. Oh, my God. They are so persnickety. Rich in Michigan.
Rich agrees with you.
Hey, I can just barely hear you. Let me turn my phone up for a second.
Okay.
You still there?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, you're great. I agree. I've been growing it for about 40 years.
Oh, you have?
And I'm a medicinal licensed grower, yeah, and all that. And it is. It's a pain, and we've got a problem up here called spider mites.
Oh yeah, spider mites.
And they're a horror. Once they get it, we call them pot herpes. They're almost impossible to get rid of.
Yeah, so you get all those bugs too. That's another special part of growing these things, right? You get spider mites.
And
then there's another endearing one called powdery mildew.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. White flies. Another one.
Yes.
There's all kinds of stuff, and I'm pretty high tech. I've got it's called a spider light, all LED and everything. And
so wait, are you growing indoors or outdoors?
Indoors, yeah.
Oh, see,
I grow outdoors too, but our season's so short up here.
Yeah.
I mean, we had snow this morning, so.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It was mostly slushy yuck, but.
See,
I
and
just
we think it's
2 days ago put my car away.
We think it's winter here because it's 84, and tonight it will sink way down to 72.
We got a buddy of mine who lives in Key Largo, and I've been trying to get a hold of him forever, and I don't know if something happened from one of the storms.
No.
Or if he got sick.
Well, I don't know. I can't help you there.
Yeah, like I said, I know, but you're down there, and
I don't. I'm not anywhere near Key Largo. Okay, it's like a 3.5 hour drive from where I am. So.
All right, and that's probably south too, I bet.
Yeah.
Randy, why don't you have any updates on Rich's buddy? What's going on here?
I don't know. I didn't do enough research.
Amateur hour.
So anyway, Alec Baldwin, I didn't even get to that. I don't know what the hell went on there. I honestly, but he killed his cinematographer by accident last night. Was it last night? Yesterday in Santa Fe, New Mexico. They were filming a Western called Rust, and they had a prop gun that had enough power, let's say, to have killed the cinematographer, a woman named Halina Hutchins. And he wounded another guy, too. And they're now deciding whether or not they want to file charges. This is a funky story, too. Oh, and Brian Laundrie killed himself. Surprise! Have a good weekend.
Clear.